Dear audience, again, welcome. I'm Maria Pellegrini. I work for the ERN-EuroBloodNet, so the European Reference Network for Rare Haematological Disease, and it's my really great pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of the ERN. Today is the second webinar of a comprehensive European online educational program that targets patients and families that is named ENROL Webinar for Patients. And it is in the framework of ENROL, that is the European Rare Blood Disorder platform. This program is really a patient-centric one because it has been co-designed with the ENROL consortium, the ERN-EuroBloodNet ePAGs and EURORDIS, because they are also part of the ENROL Steering Committee. Last Wednesday, we learned about ENROL. We learned about how to network on European Registry in Rare Haematological Disorder. Today we are at the second webinar, so we are going to see how ENROL and Registry support clinical research and clinical patient-centric research, And on the third webinar in 1 week, we are going to see and talk about PROMs and PREMs in ENROL. But I'm really honored to present you the speakers of today. I will start by the co-coordinator indeed of the ERN-EuroBloodNet, so Professor Béatrice Gulbis. She's specialized in clinical biology. She has developed a reference laboratory center for diagnosis, prevention, and follow-up of patients with hereditary red blood cell disorder. Also had said she's the co-coordinator of the ERN-EuroBloodNet. She has been working for more than 10 years for ENRCA, the European Network on Rare Anemias, and also she has a lot of experience in grants for research projects. And with her, we have our ePAGs for bone marrow failure syndromes within our network, Maria Piggin. Who is a PNH patient that founded the PNH support in 2015. She's also an European Patient Academy of Therapeutic and Innovation Fellow, so EUPATI, and an ePAG and chair of the PNH Global Alliance. Also, she has a great experience with research because she works for the NIHR Imperial Patient Experience Research Center, and also within the School of Public Health at Imperial College in London, and support publicly funded research to involve patients and public in the research. So please, the floor is all yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maria Angela. So I will begin, but of course we are a duo with Maria Piggin, and we will present ENROL Supports Clinical Research. But we wanted to just put the scene. So as you remember, there was a first webinar on ENROL and the European Registry in Rare Haematological Disorders. And today we will speak about how ENROL supports clinical research. So what did we learn from the first webinar? Of course, there is a challenge about all the fragmentation of the data. If you have different data in different registry and the meaning of the results of the data are not the same, it's not very easy. And this is what is addressing at the European level through a registry which is called ENROL. And Maria Delmar Magno and Loris Brunetta spoke about the data fragmentation in the rare hematological disorders. They also spoke about the European context of the patient registry and what is the ENROL registry. They also spoke about the fact that there is FAIR, so the data should be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable, which is not really an easy task, and what is the strategy for ENROL regarding patient registry on rare hematological diseases. Just again, if you were not there, ENROL is here. It's a registry, and from ENROL, the data are sent to the European Rare Disease platform, and those aggregated data are transferred. And of course, there is a link with the individual sites or sometimes with existing national registries. So this is better than individual sites, but it's very important to have all the sites and all the patients. And then there are different modules with few data, more data, and a huge amount of data. It depends on what you want to do, what are your goals. And then they spoke about how registry facilitates research. So the ENROL platform, again, it is fair, as they talk to you, findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. But it's very important to know that all the data must be codified so we understand each other. It's also important to you to know that in the platform there is related to the rules on privacy of all the administrative data, so the real administrative data of the patients, and this is done through SPIDER with a technical way to be sure that we are in line with the rules of privacy, data protection. And then we collect all the data and they have to be standardized. And then you can, with ENROL, you can go through different aspects, the disease, the age of the patient, the different country, the symptoms, the treatment, and everything. And so it facilitates the monitoring of the disease all across Europe, if all the countries participate and all the patients from the different countries participate, otherwise we can't reach that goal. And it will help research and policy development for rare hematological diseases. And this is for today. We can also through ENROL, so this registry, gather data that have been fragmented in the different platform, and we can also make it understandable, accessible, and reusable. I think you understand now. I repeat, but I think it's important sometimes to repeat and to be sure that all of us understand what was the scene given in the first webinar. So the learning objective of the second webinar will be given by Maria.
Thank you, Béatrice. So today's webinar is going to look at how registries facilitate research and how the ENROL registry supports patient-centric research. And we've broken the webinar up into sort of question and answers that revolve around patient-centric issues. So the questions we're going to address today are: how do patients find out about the research their data has been used for? What are some real life examples of how registries have helped patients by improving knowledge about their diseases? How can registries improve access to treatment when there is no access? And can registries help identify new symptoms or side effects or even safety issues in relation to treatments? What is real-world evidence and how does it help patients, and how does this link to registries? And how can registries help collect quality of life data, which is very relevant for patients? So the first question is, how do patients find out about the research that their data has been used for when it's been collected in a registry? So often patients consent to take part in research and never hear anything about it ever again. So this can be quite discouraging to patients because they think, well, why would I take part? because I haven't seen any results. I don't know what impact my participation had in the other studies, or how it's benefited patients like me or anybody. And this really doesn't help you feel very valued in terms of taking part in research. So it's really important to understand that patients are able to find out what happened because of the research they participated in. And then usually, or often, I should say, patients who do see results of research, they often see them in technical scientific language, which isn't very understandable by patients.
So I would like to share with you several aspects about it. So I think that if you decide to participate in a registry, you will have to be informed and signed an informed consent. So you will have the name of the investigator, you will have the name of the study, you will have the goals of the study. And so you are really part of it. And you can also ask questions. So for example, you can ask at that time, can I be aware of any dissemination tool? And for example, if we go back to ENROL, on the EuroBloodNet website, there is a section about ENROL, and you will see that what is ENROL, what are the objectives of ENROL, its legal frame, the governance, the working packages, and the disease registry. So you can be aware of what's going on and also of the results. On the other side, it's also important that the way we disseminate sometimes as scientists, we use words that we don't really realize that are not understandable by patient or anyone who is a scientist. So at the level of the patient association and your representatives, it's very important to be active in the design in the beginning, of course, but also in the follow-up of the registry. So the data that will be disseminated, and also the way we will disseminate the results, and the way in the dissemination tool, the way we will speak about it.
Thanks, Beatrice. So next is the question about, are there any real-life examples you can give us about how registries have helped patients by improving knowledge about diseases? This would really, I think, encourage patients to participate in registries if they had some examples of how registries have been used previously to help diagnose, care, or treat patients with conditions.
So I would like to give you several examples that are related to my knowledge. So for example, we built a Belgian national registry in 2008. We wanted to record a maximum of patients who had the condition of sickle cell disease and who were treated in Belgium, and it was on a voluntary basis. We standardized the annual report. So we took the data annually in a steady state basis. This means without any complication. And the data were recorded by the principal investigator. And in the meantime, there was the implementation in Belgium of newborn screening. It began in 94 in Brussels region, and a little bit later in another country. So we built a registry with different data, and then we were able to show that unfortunately, since the newborn screening was not spread all over the country, we had patients who benefited from newborn screening and the other didn't. And so we looked at the effect of newborn screening. Of course, it was described a long time ago, But to our politician or else administration, we had to go back and to tell them, please spread the newborn screening all over Belgium. And thanks to the registry, we were able to show that the patient here that benefited from newborn screening had less hospitalization and less days of hospitalization than those that were not screened. So it was very important to produce this information. And of course, it doesn't mean that in the meantime, the patient association outside the registry couldn't tell the Ministry of Health that newborn screening is really necessary for this condition. And it helps also to build with other colleagues from Europe a recommendation, a publication on recommendation related to newborn screening. And thanks to all those data and evidence-based, we could go back to our ministry, and we were very lucky. The patients are really lucky because since 1st January of this year, newborn screening is now spread in Belgium. Another example is related to a registry that was built during the COVID-19 period. It was a collaborative platform through EuroBloodNet, so our European reference network. And the aim of it was to understand if specific conditions, specific disorders needed to be really focused, related to the vaccination and the way to take in charge those patients. You know that the ambulatory process was very uneasy at the time of the crisis, COVID-19 crisis. And then thanks to this platform, we were able to tell that those patients were at increased risk and to go back to the European Union health ministries and put those disorders in the list of conditions at risk. So this is another way to look that registries are really helpful in certain conditions for the patient.
Thank you, Béatrice, for those examples. That was really useful. So the next question is, how can registries improve access to treatment when there is none? So access to available licensed treatments is still a problem for patients even in Europe. For example, in paroxysmal nocturnal hemoglobinuria, which PNH, which is my disease area, even though there are licensed treatments in Europe, Malta is a country, for example, that does not pay for any PNH treatments for its patients. And also there is a licensed treatment that isn't available in Holland at the moment. So it's really down to the cost of these treatments and whether each country is willing to pay for them. So it's really important to use all the evidence that can be gathered to lobby governments to provide access to treatments which can save lives and improve quality of life. So understanding how registries can help with this is really important.
Yeah, that's very important, Maria. So if we go back to the European platform, so the platform in which the data from ENROL are sent, if you look at the goals of the registry, you go to the European Commission website and you look, okay, what's the aim of this European platform? And you can read it's to provide researchers, healthcare providers, patient and policymakers with a consistent instrument to improve knowledge, diagnosis, and treatment of rare disease. This is huge, and this is a very nice goal. But how can we do that? And if you look again in the website, the European Commission website, you see that the common data set that should be collected, thanks to, of course, the data from the patients, are pseudonymization. This is related to the data protection, of course, and the date of birth, sex, patient status, alive or dead, the date of death, if the patient is died, first contacts with the specialized centers. So we can stop here for examples, but what can we do with all those data? Then you can tell that you have all the population, how many patients have a certain condition, and are they all infants, children, adolescents, adults. We have more women than male, for example, for this condition. And are they alive or dead? So then we can go back why, and are they taken in charge, the care pathways doing through a specialized center or not. So you have many question and answer, even if it seems very simple. And here you have all the other data. It's the age of diagnosis. That's important. When did you get a diagnosis? At birth, after that, very late. So it's a pathway that maybe could be improved if it's late for all the patients, for example. If was the diagnosis only made in a specialized centers, this means that the patient have to go there. Do we need a genetic diagnosis? Oh, the undiagnosed case is defined. So what did you do for that? And then all the informed consent in this, but do we have also a biological sample so we can make research on it? Is there a biobank and disability for the patients? So what means a registry? What I wanted to show you is the fact that you might have even few data, but you can do a lot. So epidemiology, what means epidemiology is you want to have the overall picture of the number of patients and the distribution by sex and age. That's the epidemiology. So how many patients do you have with a condition? And how is it distributed within Europe? That's very important because we can go back to our health ministry and say, okay, let's look. There are few patients, so we have to concentrate maybe them because the diagnosis can be made only in a specialized center. So how can we send the patient to those centers, or the physician can be aware of this situation, or the patient can be aware of this situation, how they can find the diagnosis. Then you can use the registry in another purpose. So it's the identification for further research. For example, I showed you have the availability of a biological samples. So this means that if you know that certain patient in certain healthcare centers with the informed consent, they gave the data, and they also agreed to send the biological sample to a research center, then you can make maybe research for those patients and understand better the condition and maybe find a treatment. So registry, in fact, registry is a word, but with nothing in it, unless the fact that you want to collect data. But to collect data, you have first to define the objectives, and then you build your registry, not the other way around. And so, for example, you see here that you have a common data set with from the European platform, then you increase the data, and with ENROL, we want to add the rare hematological disease common data set, which are more data those that will be collected at the level of the European platforms. And then this means that we will reach more objectives, more results than with the European platform. So if we speak about the access for treatment, so you see, for example, here in this registry, you have the follow-up of the patient, their diagnosis, the events or complication, maybe complication of anemia, imaging, the treatment, even if you have prevention with prophylaxis, all the laboratory results, the hospitalization, and what's going on during the hospitalization stay. So this means that, for example, if you have the complication, you can follow the benefit or the adverse events of a treatment, but also if a patient has the treatment. So let's say maybe in one country you see that the complications are many, and then without the treatment, and in another country where the treatment is available, there are few complications. So this is a first way to understand that the first way to have evidence-based about this treatment. And then I just give you here an example about our ENROL platform. We collect the fact that several patients can benefit from stem cell transplantation or even gene therapy if it's available. And then we collect the information, but also the outcome of it. Not only you have been transplanted or you had a gene therapy, but what is the outcome of it? And if you look at ENROL, what is very, I don't know why it's also very important to be within Europe, you see that through EuroBloodNet and the ERN, for example, only for that, we have an average of 16,000 patients in annual follow-up for red blood cell disorders. So this means that we can get, if the patient approved it and participate in the registry, we have a huge amount of patients. So it's, of course, more evidence-based than if you have very few patients. And this is important when we speak about rare diseases, because maybe there are only few patients in each country, but all together, it means a lot with the results. So a multicentric registry is very helpful.
Thank you, Béatrice. So the next question is, can registries help to identify new symptoms or perhaps side effects of drugs or perhaps any safety issues in relation to any treatments? So patients often identify symptoms or side effects of drugs which clinicians are not sure are linked to their condition or to a medication. And by collecting these across many patients, this assists to provide evidence that a symptom is linked to a condition or to a side effect which is being experienced by many patients. This evidence collection can include issues where something is experienced by patients which needs further investigations in terms of how a medication affects people, and which could be a safety issue and important to know. For example, I know that a number of PNH patients are experiencing itching with a treatment that's currently available, and it's not really known whether this is linked to a treatment, but we would like to gather this information as part of a registry to really understand what's going on.
And for example, again, in the ENROL registry, one of the objectives was the safety of stem cell transplantation. So you saw before that I show you that we want to collect the outcome of the transplantation, and this means that we will collect not only there are complications or not, but more than that in detail. And for example, you have all those complications that are not so nice for the patient and even for the issue, while sometimes you have sustained engraftment, which is very, very good. So we have to follow that and to understand what is all around, which means how was the transplantation made? Did we took this medication before or this one? Did we add a certain medication during the procedure and after the procedure, and so on? What was the status of the patient before the transplantation? This helps a lot. And for example, we know that we have been able to make a transplantation for adult patients with sickle cell disorders, while it was devoted to younger patients before. So we improve all the time. So registry are related to safety issues, because if you have older patients with complications that are really severe, you will sometimes stop a procedure.
So the next question is, what is real-world evidence and how does this help patients? So real-world evidence is how a treatment affects patients when they are not using it in a clinical trial. So sometimes this is different to how treatment is experienced in a clinical trial, because real-world evidence captures the use of treatment over longer periods of time, or in patients who have not been included in a clinical trial. For example, those who don't meet the inclusion criteria, so they might be younger or older patients, or those with comorbidities. But real-world evidence is increasingly important for the payers of medication, as they want to know they are paying for medications that benefit patients long-term, rather than what they can see from clinical trial evidence.
Thank you very much, Maria. So I would like to give you an example from my life when I was young, because I'm older now. And it was about immunosuppression after organ transplantation. So 20 years ago, we used a huge amount of one drug for immunosuppression, and the toxicity was very, impressive. It was observed. So of course, in the real world, the clinician observed that and wanted to go in another way, and also to go back to researchers to tell them, this is real world. Of course, we understand the way this drug can have a benefit on the immunosuppression, and to be sure that organ transplantation has finally cured the patient, but we observe toxicity. So this is real life. And then if you go back to all through these experiences, we have now a combination of treatment. We have a decreased amount of each drug that is given. We have then less toxicity and improvement in efficacy. And so real world helps to adapt after clinical trial. And for example, in this example, it was adapted for each type of organ transplantation. So the way you treat after cardiac transplantation or liver transplantation or kidney transplantation is not the same, and is based also on real life treatment.
So next question is, how can registries help collect quality of life data, which is very relevant for patients? And often the standardized quality of life instruments used in clinical trials are not disease specific, because the regulators need them to be standardized. However, where a disease specific quality of life measure is available, this is really important information to be collected from a patient point of view. It can show differences in how patients experience different treatments, and which ones provide different symptom relief and different psychosocial impacts, for example. In my disease area in PNH, we've been trying to have a disease-specific quality of life tool called the QLQ PNH AA54, validated and included in trials or studies for a number of years, and we hope to succeed in this soon. It's 54 questions long, but we consider they are relevant to us, rather than most of the questions we've been answering for many years from standardized quality of life questionnaires which are not.
And this introduced the next webinars, which will be on PROMs and PREMs in ENROL, and will be presented by Maria Pellegrini and also Jacqueline Dubois from MDS Alliance. And so this means that our registry can further support patient-centric research. So we will collect all the status of health condition of those patients. You can also, as you will see with the next webinar, the quality of cares and the input about the quality of life. So that's very important, and this will be presented through the next meeting. And I hope you will join us for knowing more than what I just presented. And you see with whom the next webinar will be presented. That's for you, Maria.
Thank you, Béatrice. So just to conclude, in terms of what we've hopefully learned today in today's webinar, that patients are central to the creation of a registry, and their active participation in the registry is vital so that the data can be used. And they obviously need to approve their data to be used in a registry by giving their consent, which should be informed, of course. And they need to also be able to review and understand the results of the research their data has been used for, and which will ultimately, hopefully, improve care and treatment. Objectives of registries there are many, and they must be clearly defined. For example, Béatrice gave examples of epidemiology, number of patients in each country, for example, safety issues or quality of life data, which will be discussed in more detail in the next webinar, and the fact that registries can collect real life evidence data that are different than that is collected in clinical trials, but is very important for the way that treatment is funded and provided going forward.
And so we think that the main take-home message about ENROL, but overall about registry, it enables generation of knowledge. This is related to care, but also to treatment. So thank you very much, and we are ready to answer to your question or to hear your comments. It will be really helpful for us.
Thank you very much for both of you. It has been very clear, and I have really appreciated the interaction among you, because it was really a way for perceiving the patient's point of view, the patient community point of view, and also the physician researcher point of view. So thank you very much. It has been really nourishing. And as I always encourage the audience, this is really a unique occasion for directly raise comment, feedback, questions on patient-centric registry directly to KE expert. So let's see if any question arrives. If you prefer, you can write or unmute yourself and take the floor. Both options are fine. What fits more for you? Yes, Mariette, please. Nice to see you.
Hello, I'm Mariette Driessens. I work at the Dutch Rare Disease Patient Organization, and I'm a volunteer for the hemophilia community, both in the Netherlands and in Europe via the EHC. And I was wondering, of course, first of all, thanks for the nice presentation. I think this really works, this format, and great that you are recording it so it can be disseminated to the patients. That's great. I was wondering regarding the example you gave on the hematopoietic stem cell transplantation. There is, of course, the European bone marrow transplant registry, is that more focused to the, I mean, do you have a collaboration with them? Or because I think that's I think the way forward. And also when I look at we have an existing hemophilia registry, but we want to expand to other conditions like von Willebrand disease. And I see that EuroBloodNet has research projects on the disease area, also for the Glanzmann disease, platelet disorders. So I was really hoping, that's why I attend, that we are trying to divide the work, try not to do double work, and share resources and knowledge. So maybe you can comment on that a bit.
Thank you very much. Of course, we collaborate with all the existing registry, and of course we collaborate with the European Union collection about stem cell transplantation. Of course, the aim might be sometimes different. This is why we collaborate, and we really never want to duplicate. So if we have data from one registry, we will take it, or we will take it and then send it to the European Commission. But really the way is not to duplicate, never to do it. And all the action in the ERN are always like that. If you have recommendation, for example, if it exists, we didn't want to do it. Of course, for registry, it might be sometimes difficult because what we have here are individual data, and they are more complex than what is in what is in the registry, for example, for stem cell transplantation, where we get more data than that is in this registry. For example, we have the data before transplantation, and then we have the transplantation. So why do we transplant? So this is why we have to work. We have to work together and to be sure that maybe the goals are different and not to duplicate. And if there is a sort of duplication, we have to understand each other and to be sure that we gathered the same data or compare the data.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. There is one question in the chat. I'm addressing it. Have you considered international collaborations with global registry or other? So, for example, to build the registry ENROL and more than that, we have been working with the existing registry to understand if we could merge them at the end. So, for the US, for example, if regarding to rare hematological diseases, we have been working with them. And to build it in the same way, and also to look at all the codification that are used to have interoperability, and to be sure that sometimes maybe we will merge more than registry existing at the European level. I hope I answered the question. There is one comment now in the chat. Thanks for excellent presentation. Where I can find the record, so that is for me answering. Yeah. So the records will be available in our YouTube channel and in our website. I will put the link in the chat just after finish to speak. And by the way, you can find the YouTube channel looking for EuroBloodNet Edu, EDU. And then you have all the playlists for healthcare professional or for patients organization. We have 200 videos already, and the same in the website. in the same web page where you registered for this program, it will be pop up the videos of this webinar and the PowerPoint presentation also. So both materials will be available, open accessible, of course. Thanks for asking, and I will go looking for the link and put the link in the chat. So.
And just to add also maybe an information, when there is an existing registry, sometimes what we do is to collect aggregated data. So we just, let's say there is a registry and there is a difficulty in interoperability. And so we ask for the aggregated data. So there is totally without any individual data. And we can give an overall picture about the condition, even if we don't have all the data. And that could be another way to work with existing registry without going through all this interoperability, which is really huge. Sometimes problem with the ethical aspects locally in the country, because in Europe it's very difficult. The way you have to go through the privacy rule, data protection rule might be quite different, so it's not so easy.
Thank you very much. I don't know if there is any other question.
And if you have still question about it, I think that on the first, no, I don't think in the first webinar, it was also a source of information.
Thanks a lot again for this really clear and comprehensive presentation. As Maria said, I think it's a very valuable material we are providing to the patient community. And so, well, I hope to see all of you on the next webinar in 1 week precisely on PROMs and PREMs, linked to registries, and have a nice evening. Thank you very much.
Have a nice evening to all of you. Thank you, Maria Piggin, for you, and Maria Angela. Thank you very much.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye
See
bye.
you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.